It was a summer day in the 1970s, the kind where the air hums with cicadas and the sun claws at your skin. But I didn't feel the heat, not yet. I was 10, standing alone in a forgotten corner of the woods, my heart pounding, like it knew something I didn't. The trees around me, twisted and ancient, seemed to lean in whispering secrets I wasn't meant to hear. And then the world went quiet. Too quiet. That's when I saw it. A shadow impossibly tall, watching me from the hill. The small southern town I called home was a patchwork of dusty roads and endless forests, a place where kids like me roamed free in the 1970s. Back then, the world felt bigger, wilder. My sister and I would tear through the woods on our bikes, chasing the thrill of discovery in the hundreds of acres that stretched behind our house. The forest was our kingdom, a maze of creeks, grapevines, and clearings where sunlight danced like a living thing. We'd spend hours out there, climbing gnarled trees or wading in shallow streams, our laughter echoing through the canopy. But there was one spot we loved most, a small valley hidden deep in the woods where the trees grew crooked, like they'd been shaped by some unseen hand. The branches curved in unnatural arcs, forming a cradle of shade that shielded us from the brutal southern sun. It was our secret place, a sanctuary where the world couldn't touch us. Or so I thought. That day, the air was thick, heavy, with the scent of pine and earth. My sister and I had been in the valley for hours, bouncing on the springy branches of those strange trees, our voices carrying through the still air. My stomach growled a low rumble that reminded me we'd been out too long. My sister, always the practical one, dusted off her shorts and announced she'd run back to the house, barely a 10-minute walk through the pines, to make us sandwiches. I watched her go, her figure shrinking as she wove through the trees, her ponytail bouncing with each step. The forest swallowed her, and I was alone. I turned back to the valley, kicking at a pile of dry leaves, my mind drifting to the branches, cluttering our favorite spot. Maybe I'd clear them out, make it perfect for next time. I bent down, tugging at a stubborn twig, when a strange sensation crawled over me like the air itself had thickened. I straightened my hands, still gripping the branch, and realized the forest had gone silent. No birds, no insects, not even the rustle of leaves in the faint breeze. It was as if the world had held its breath, waiting for something to happen. A chill snaked down my spine, sharp and cold, despite the heat pressing against my skin. "Something's wrong," my mind whispered, but I couldn't place what. I scanned the valley, my eyes darting from the crooked trees to the sloping hill that framed the clearing. That's when I saw it. At the top of the hill, silhouetted against the glaring sun, stood a figure. A shadow, tall and unnaturally thin, its edges sharp, like it had been cut from the fabric of the world. My breath caught, lodging in my throat. It wasn't a tree or a trick of the light. It was someone or something. My first thought was the old man who owned this land, a kind, stooped figure who'd wave at us from his porch. But this wasn't him. The old man was short, round his voice, warm, with a slow drawl. This figure was too tall, too lean, its limbs stretched like they didn't belong to a human body. And it didn't move. It just stood there, watching me. Close your eyes, I told myself, my heart hammering against my ribs. It was a trick I'd learned as a kid. When you see something scary, shut your eyes, count to 3, and it'll be gone. Just your imagination. Nothing real. I squeezed my eyes shut, the darkness behind my lids pulsing with my heartbeat. 1, 2, 3. I opened them. The shadow was still there. My stomach twisted a sick lurch that made my legs feel like water. I blinked hard, willing it to vanish, to turn into a tree or a fence post or anything that made sense. But it didn't. It stood motionless, its presence heavy, like a weight pressing on my chest. It's real, I thought, and the realization hit me like a slap. It's real, and it's watching me. I froze my body, refusing to move, as if the shadow's gaze had pinned me to the ground. My mind raced, scrambling for an explanation. Maybe it was a hunter or a neighbor I didn't know. But no one came out here, not this deep in the woods. And no one stood like that, silent, still, their eyes boring into you from a distance. I could feel it, that stare, even though I couldn't see its face. It was like a predator sizing up prey, calculating, waiting. My mouth went dry, my tongue sticking to the roof. I wanted to scream, to run, but my legs were rooted, my voice trapped in my throat. Close your eyes again, I thought, desperate. Maybe I'd missed something. Maybe it was a trick, after all. I shut my eyes tighter, this time my fists clenching until my nails bit into my palms. 1, 2, 3. I opened them, praying for an empty hill. But the shadow hadn't moved. If anything, it seemed closer now, its outline sharper, more defined. And then it shifted. Just a slight movement, an arm lifting slow and deliberate, like it was reaching out. My heart lurched a wild thud that echoed in my ears. It's moving. It's real. It's coming for me. I don't know how long I stood there, locked in that moment, the world reduced to me and that shadow. Seconds stretched into eternity, each one heavier than the last. My mind screamed at me to run, to get out, but my body wouldn't listen. I was a statue carved from fear, my eyes glued to the figure on the hill. Its presence was overwhelming, a dark energy that seemed to suck the light from the air. The valley. Once my sanctuary felt like a trap. Now the trees closing in the hill, looming like a guillotine. I could smell the earth sharp and damp, mixing with the metallic tang of my own panic. My skin prickled, every nerve on edge, as if the shadow's gaze was brushing against me, cold and invasive. And then a sound. Footsteps, faint at first, crunching through the underbrush. My sister. Relief flooded me, warm and fleeting, but it wasn't enough to break the spell. I tore my eyes from the shadow, glancing toward the path where my sister was emerging, her arms cradling a paper bag with our sandwiches. She was talking, her voice bright and oblivious, but when she saw me, saw my face pale and frozen, she stopped dead. "What's wrong?" she asked, her tone shifting from cheerful to worried in an instant. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. My eyes flicked back to the hill, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The shadow was gone. It was as if the world snapped back into place. The birds started singing again, their calls piercing the silence. The breeze returned, rustling the leaves, carrying the scent of wildflowers. My sister's voice cut through the haze, sharp and urgent. "What's wrong?" she repeated, stepping closer, the bag crinkling in her hands. I blinked my body, finally unlocking my legs, trembling as I stumbled toward her. "We need to go." I managed, my voice hoarse, barely audible. "Now." She didn't argue. She saw something in my eyes, something that told her this wasn't a game. We ran the sandwiches, forgotten, tumbling from the bag as we tore through the woods. Branches snagged at my clothes, roots threatened to trip me, but I didn't care. I could still feel it, that weight, that stare, lingering on my back, even though the hill was empty. We burst into our yard, gasping my sister's face, pale as she grabbed my arm. "What did you see?" she demanded, her voice shaking. I told her everything. The shadow, tall and thin, standing on the hill. The way it watched me, unmoving, unyielding. The way it moved just once, like it was reaching for me. I told her how I'd tried to make it go away, closing my eyes like I always did, but it wouldn't. It was real. I knew it was real. My sister listened, her eyes wide, her grip on my arm tightening. She didn't say much, but I could tell she believed me. She'd felt it too, that wrongness in the air, even if she hadn't seen it. I was practical, even at 10, skeptical. I didn't believe in ghosts or monsters, Not really. But what I'd seen wasn't a trick of the light or a figment of my imagination. It was something else, something I couldn't explain. The next day, I made my sister come back with me. I had to know. I had to prove it was nothing, that I'd been wrong. We went at the same time, the sun high, the valley, bathed in golden light. I stood where I'd been, my sister on the hill, her shadow stretching across the grass. But her shadow was normal, short, soft-edged, human. I tried everything, moving her to different spots, standing in different places, but nothing matched what I'd seen. That shadow had been too tall, too sharp, too wrong. I estimated it at least 7 feet, maybe more. Its proportions stretched beyond anything human. We never went back to that valley. Not really. The woods lost their magic. After that, their secrets turning sinister. I've seen strange things in my life. Lights in the sky, shapes in the dark. But I've always found a way to explain them. A plane, a dream, a trick of the mind. But not this. The shadow on the hill was real, and it saw me. I can still feel its gaze, sometimes, in the quiet moments when the world goes still. I can still see it standing there, waiting. And I wonder if it's still out there in that valley, watching for someone else to step into its trap. Years later, I heard stories from other kids in town. Whispers about the woods, about things seen in the shadows. One boy swore he'd seen a tall figure near the creek, its eyes glowing like coals. Another said her dog wouldn't go near that part of the forest. Hackles, raised growling at nothing. I never told them my story, but I listened and I wondered. Was it the same thing? Was it still there, lurking, biding its time? I don't know. I don't want to know. But I'll never forget that day, that moment, when the world went quiet and the shadow on the hill chose me. If you're ever in those woods in a small southern town where the trees grow crooked and the air grows heavy, be careful. Watch the hills. And if the birds stop singing, run. Don't look back, because it's watching and it's waiting. The air in my room turned cold that night, heavy like someone was holding their breath right beside me. I was too young to understand why my heart raced, but old enough to know something was wrong. Terribly wrong. I lived in Parisburg, Ohio, a small town where the days were warm with neighborly smiles and the nights were stitched together with secrets. Our little brick house sat on a busy road, its red walls glowing under the afternoon sun, promising safety. But inside, it held something else, something that watched, something that waited. I didn't know it then, but I was about to meet it. The house was sorry, or so my mother said. She loved its rustic charm, the wooden beams, the creaky floors, the way the light filtered through the lace curtains. To me, it was a maze of shadows. The corners seemed to swallow light, turning cozy nooks into pitch-black voids. At night, the house came alive in ways it shouldn't. The floorboards groaned under invisible weight. The walls sighed with secrets they couldn't tell. I'd lie in bed, my small body curled tight, staring at the window to escape the darkness pressing in. Sleep was a battle I rarely won. My only ally was our cat, a shy creature with eyes like moons. She'd leap onto my bed, her warmth a shield against the night. I'd feel the mattress dip under her weight, a comfort that lulled me toward dreams. But one night, everything changed. I couldn't sleep. My body buzzed with a restless energy, like the air before a storm. I dragged myself to the window, pressing my cheek against the cool glass, waiting for the cat to join me. The world outside was still too still. No crickets, no wind, just silence, thick and suffocating. Feel this moment with me. Imagine the weight of that silence pressing against your chest, making every breath a choice. I weighted my eyes, heavy, until I felt it. The bed sank beside my right leg. Relief washed over me. The cat had come. I closed my eyes, ready to drift off, but then a step. Soft, deliberate, to my left. My heart stopped. The cat wasn't there. She couldn't be. The bed was still indented, heavy, as if someone sat watching me. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying it was a dream, praying the cat would save me from whatever stood in that darkness. You've felt this, haven't you? That moment when your mind screams to look, but your body refuses. I forced my eyes open. The cat was there, on the floor, her eyes wide, staring at the bed, not at me, at the spot where the mattress dipped. There was nothing. No shape, no shadow, just an impossible crater in the fabric, like an invisible weight pressed down. My breath caught. I grabbed the cat, her fur soft against my trembling hands, and ran. The hallway stretched endlessly, the shadows clawing at my heels. I burst into my parents' room, words tumbling out in a childish jumble. They held me, their voices soothing, but I saw the doubt in their eyes. They didn't feel it. They didn't know. The next morning, they asked what I'd seen. I tried to explain the bed, the step, the weight, but my words were too small, too frail. They smiled, patted my head, and sent me to play. I wanted to believe it was a dream, a trick of my tired mind, but the house didn't let me forget. It whispered in the quiet moments, in the way the light flickered for no reason. I avoided my room, spending hours in the yard, where the sun could protect me. Yet even there, I felt eyes on me, hidden in the windows of our own home. Let's pause here. Picture a memory from your childhood, something you couldn't explain. Hold it tight, because mine came back to haunt me. Months later, on a Saturday morning, I was upstairs wrapped in a blanket on the couch. The second floor was my safe haven, its log cabin charm a stark contrast to the oppressive ground floor. The slanted ceiling, the wooden walls, the ornate staircase with its carved railings. It felt like a different world. I was watching TV, lost in the colors of a cartoon, when a chill ran through me. My eyes drifted to the staircase. Something was there. Between the railings, a face stared back. A girl young with long hair and eyes too large, too empty. The light from the window barely touched her, casting her features in a ghostly haze. I froze my blanket, a flimsy shield. She didn't blink. She didn't move. I stared, willing her to be a trick of the light, a shadow playing games. But she was real. Her gaze pinned me heavy, like the weight on my bed that night. Look closer now. See her eyes, endless, pulling you in. Then I noticed it. No hands gripped the rails. She stood at the bottom of the stairs, where the floor was lowest. To look through the gap, she'd have to be 9 feet tall. Your heart's racing now, isn't it? Mine was a drum in my chest. I couldn't move. The staircase was my only escape, and she blocked it. Her eyes never wavered, boring into me with a hunger I couldn't name. I pulled the blanket over my head, my breath hot against the fabric. I counted 1, 2, 3, praying she'd be gone. But when I peeked through the thin sheet, she was closer, right beside the couch, towering her shadow, swallowing the light. I screamed a raw, desperate sound that brought my parents running. They found me, shaking the blanket clutched tight. "There's nothing there," they said, their voices gentle but firm. I pointed to the stairs, to the couch, but the girl was gone. They didn't believe me. How could they? I was 4, my fears easily dismissed as nightmares. But I knew what I'd seen. Her face was burned into my mind, those eyes, that impossible height. I refused to go upstairs alone after that. The house felt different now, its warmth a lie. Every shadow held her shape, every creak her step. I'd catch glimpses, her hair in the corner of my eye, her shadow on the wall, but when I looked, she was gone. The cat stopped coming to my bed. Even she knew the house wasn't safe. Let me tell you about my aunt. Her story will make you question everything. A year later, we moved out. Not because of the girl my mother said, but I saw the relief in her eyes when we left. Years later, she told me about my aunt. She'd stayed with us one night, sleeping in my room. She felt it too. The bed sinking, the air turning heavy. She saw a figure fleeting in the hallway mirror. My mother hadn't believed her either, not until I spoke of the girl. The house had a history, she admitted. New owners came and went, driven out by bad luck or fear. We'd stayed the longest, but even we couldn't outrun it. I'm older now, but Parisburg pulls me back. I drive the half hour to see the house, its brick facade unchanged. It stands there, silent, watching. I don't go inside. I don't need to. The memories are enough. The weight on my bed, the girl's unblinking stare. Feel the chill now, the way it crawls up your spine. The house is empty, they say, but I know better. She's still there, waiting for someone new to claim. You can't escape her. Not really. Every night, when I close my eyes, I see her face. I feel the bed dip, hear her step. The house may be miles away, but it lives in me, a shadow I can't shake. And sometimes, in the quiet, I wonder if she followed me. 2 years ago, I woke up in the dead of night, my heart racing for no reason I could name. The house was quiet, too quiet, except for the faint hum of my mom's snores down the hall. I told myself it was nothing, just another sleepless night. But as I lay in bed, staring at the blank wall, something touched me. A set of fingers, cold and deliberate, tucking in my blanket. And then they started to tickle. It was a night like any other, or so I thought. 2 years ago, I was living in my parents' house, a small, creaky place in a quiet suburb where nothing ever happened. I'd always been a light sleeper, the kind who'd jolt awake at the faintest sound, a car passing a branch tapping the window. That night, somewhere around 3 a.m., my bladder pulled me out of a shallow sleep. I shuffled to the bathroom, the cold tiles biting my bare feet, and did my business. Nothing strange, nothing out of place. My mom's snores rumbled through the wall, a steady rhythm that usually annoyed me, but tonight felt oddly comforting, like a tether to the real world. My dad in his own room was probably snoring too, though his door muffled it. I checked my phone as I climbed back into bed. I groaned, knowing I had to be up for work in just a few hours. The thought tightened my chest, a familiar knot of anxiety. that made sleep feel like a distant dream. I rolled over, facing the wall. The same wall I'd stared at every night for years. It was plain, off-white, marked only by a faint crack near the baseboard, barely visible in the dark. I pulled the blanket tight around me, cocooning myself against the chill of the room. My mind buzzed a chaotic swarm of thoughts about work bills, the endless to-do list that never let me rest. I tried to calm it, picturing a forest at dusk, crickets humming, fireflies blinking in the distance. It was a trick I'd used since I was a kid, a way to lure my brain into sleep. But tonight, it wasn't working. My mom's snores grew louder, a grating drone that scraped at my nerves. I considered banging on the wall to wake her, just for a moment of silence. But I didn't. She'd stop soon, I told myself. She always did. 10 minutes passed. Maybe more. The snores faded, replaced by the kind of quiet that feels alive, heavy, like the air itself is watching you. I focused on the wall, the crack, the faint texture of the paint, willing my eyes to grow heavy. My body was still my breathing slow, but my mind refused to shut off. I was trapped in that liminal space between wakefulness and sleep, where every thought feels too loud, too sharp. And then it happened. A sensation so subtle at first, I thought I'd imagined it. My blanket, tucked tightly around my shoulders, shifted. Not a slip, not a fall, it moved, as if someone was adjusting it, smoothing it against my skin. My breath caught my body tensing. What was that? I lay still, every muscle rigid, waiting for it to happen again. It did. This time, I felt them fingers distinct and deliberate, pressing the blanket against my side. They were cold, unnaturally cold, their touch seeping through the fabric like ice water. My heart slammed against my ribs, a wild, erratic beat that drowned out everything else. I wanted to scream, to leap out of bed, but I couldn't move. It was as if those fingers had pinned me, their pressure light, but unyielding. And then something even stranger happened. The fingers didn't just tuck the blanket, they started to tickle. A gentle, teasing brush against my ribs, the kind that makes your muscles twitch before you can stop them. It wasn't enough to make me laugh, but it forced a smile, a tight, involuntary curve of my lips that felt wrong. So wrong in the dark. This isn't happening. I thought my mind scrambling for an explanation. Was I dreaming? Had I fallen asleep without realizing it? No. I was awake. I could feel the mattress beneath me, the cool air on my face, the faint hum of my mom's snores starting up again. I would have heard the door open. It was less than 2 feet from my bed, its hinges loud enough to wake me, even on a good night. My parents were asleep, their snores proof they hadn't moved. No one else lived in the house. No one else could be here. But those fingers were real, their touch as vivid as the wall in front of me. They moved with purpose, tucking the blanket tighter, their tickling, relentless, a playful cruelty that made my skin crawl. I don't know how long it lasted. 10 seconds, maybe 15. It felt like forever. Each moment stretching into a nightmare I couldn't escape. My eyes were open now, staring at the wall. The crack, the shadows that seemed to shift in the corner of my vision. The fingers stopped, their absence as jarring as their presence. My body unfroze, my arms twitching as if released from a spell. I took a deep breath, my chest shuddering, and forced myself to turn over slowly, terrified of what I might see. The room was dark, the only light a faint glow from the street lamp outside filtering through the blinds. I scanned every corner, every shadow. No figure looming over me. No eyes glinting in the blackness. No sign of anyone or anything. Just my room, exactly as it had always been. I sat up, my hands shaking as I fumbled for the lamp. The light flooded the room, harsh and unforgiving, revealing nothing but my messy bed, my cluttered dresser, the open wardrobe door I'd forgotten to close. I checked behind the dresser, under the bed, even inside the wardrobe, my heart pounding with every step. Nothing. I opened my bedroom door, the snores of my mom and dad, louder now, a steady reminder that they hadn't moved. I stood there, the light spilling into the hallway, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Was it a ghost? The thought felt ridiculous, childish. But what else could it be? I'd felt those fingers, their cold, deliberate touch. I'd felt the tickle, the smile they'd forced onto my face. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't my imagination. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I'd been half asleep, my mind blending reality with a dream. Maybe my muscles had spasmed, mimicking the sensation of being touched. But those explanations felt hollow, flimsy against the clarity of what I'd experienced. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my bed, the lamp burning my back against the headboard, staring at the wall like it might betray me again. Every sound, the creak of the house, the hum of the fridge made me flinch. I kept expecting it to happen again, those fingers returning to claim me, to pull me into whatever darkness they came from. Months passed, and I almost convinced myself it was a fluke, a one-time glitch in my brain. I stopped talking about it, even to myself, burying it deep where it couldn't haunt me. But then it happened again. Another sleepless night, Another trip to the bathroom, another stretch of staring at that damn wall. The house was quiet. My parents' snores, a distant murmur. I lay there, wrapped in my blanket, my mind heavy with exhaustion, but refusing to let go. I was facing the wall, the crack, the familiar outline that had become my anchor on nights like this. And then I felt it. The blanket shifted, tugged gently against my body. Those fingers, cold and precise, pressed the fabric against my ribs, smoothing it with a care that felt almost tender. My heart stopped, my breath freezing in my lungs. Not again, I thought, panic clawing at my chest. Please, not again. But it was the same. The fingers tucked, then tickled their touch, light but insistent, brushing against my side, in a way that made my muscles twitch, my lips quiver, with a smile I didn't want. This time, I laughed a quiet, breathless sound that slipped out before I could stop it. It was absurd, terrifying, the kind of laugh you choke on when fear and confusion collide. I turned my head faster this time, my eyes wide, searching the darkness. Nothing. The room was empty, the shadows still, the air heavy with the weight of my own fear. I lunged for the lamp, the light searing my eyes as it revealed the same empty room, the same empty truth. I checked every corner, every hiding place, my hands trembling so badly I could barely grip the doorknob. My parents' snores never faltered. No one was there. No one had ever been there. I didn't sleep that night either. I sat up the lamp on my blanket, discarded on the floor, like it had betrayed me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still in the room, lingering just out of sight, waiting for me to turn my back. I started sleeping with the light on after that, the wall a constant reminder of those nights, those fingers. I'd always been a skeptic, even as a goth who devoured books on the supernatural, collecting stories of ghosts and spirits like trophies. I'd roll my eyes at tales of haunted houses, dismissing them as overactive imaginations or cheap thrills. But this was different. This was real. It had happened twice, and they say things come in threes. Every time I roll over in bed, facing that wall, I brace myself, half expecting those fingers to return to touch me again, to pull me into a darkness I can't escape. I started asking around cautiously, not wanting to sound crazy. A friend told me about her grandmother, who swore her late husband would visit her at night, tugging her blanket to let her know he was there. She said it felt comforting, like love reaching across the grave. But this didn't feel like love. It felt like a game, a playful torment from something that knew it could scare me and chose to toy with me instead. Another friend mentioned a local legend, a spirit that haunted old houses, touching sleepers to remind them of their mortality. I laughed it off, but the stories stuck, burrowing into my mind like splinters. What if it wasn't a loved one? What if it was something else, something older, something that didn't belong in this world? The house feels different now. It's still my home, still the place I grew up, but it's not safe anymore. The walls hold secrets. The shadows hide things I can't see. I've thought about moving out, finding a place where the nights are just nights, where the dark doesn't touch me. But part of me wonders if it would follow me, if those fingers are tied to me, not the house. I don't know what it is, a ghost, a spirit, a trick of my mind. But I know it's real. I know it's waiting. And I know deep in my bones that it's not done with me yet. If you ever wake in the night feeling something brush against you, don't turn around. Don't look. Just lie still and pray it's only a dream. Because if it's not, it's already too close. The text came at 10 p.m., buzzing my phone like a warning I should have heeded. Yo, let's hit the old asylum. You, in Andre's words, glowed on the screen, daring me to step into the dark. I was 16, restless, in a small town where boredom was a heavier weight than fear. The abandoned psychiatric hospital, 10 minutes from our neighborhood, was a legend, whispered about in school hallways. Its rusted gates, a dare no one took seriously. But that night, I did. I shouldn't have. My town was the kind where everyone knew your name, but not your secrets. I hung out with a loose crew, guys from school. Not friends, just faces to kill time with. Andre was one of them, loud and reckless, always chasing a thrill. I'd barely spoken to him, maybe a "What's up?" in the cafeteria, but his text felt like a challenge. Step into this moment with me. Feel the pull of curiosity, the itch to break free. I was bored, my room a cage of posters and half-read books. The asylum, with its rumors of lost patients and shadowed halls, promised something alive. I typed "sure" before I could think twice. They pulled up in Andre's beat-up sedan. 5 minutes later, the engine rumbling like a bad omen. 2 other guys whose names I barely knew slouched in the back, their laughter sharp and forced. I grabbed a flashlight and my running shoes, my gut twisting as I climbed in. The car ride was a blur of their crude jokes and cigarette smoke, their voices grating against my nerves. I didn't belong here, not with them, but the asylum loomed larger in my mind, a puzzle I needed to solve. You've felt this, haven't you? That moment when you know you're making a mistake, but keep going anyway. We parked a block away. The moon, a pale sliver above. The complex stood like a corpse of brick and steel, its windows black, its walls scarred by time. The rusted fence sagged barely a barrier. As we pushed through, a stench hit me damp rot, like earth left to fester. Not death, but something worse. Neglect, abandonment, a place the world forgot. My flashlight beam danced across the bricks, revealing cracks that looked like veins. Andre grinned, his teeth catching the moonlight. "Who's first?" he taunted. I pointed at him. "You." He laughed and led the way. The main door groaned as we forced it open, revealing a stairwell swallowed by darkness. The air inside was heavy, thick with dust that clung to my throat. We climbed to the first floor, a long hallway stretching before us. Doors lined both sides, all closed, except one at the far end, its blackness an invitation. Andre suggested we split up, a stupid idea I didn't fight. Close your eyes for a second. Picture that hallway, the silence pressing in the open door, waiting. I wanted to stick together, but my pride or fear of looking weak pushed me to the stairs. I'd check the floor above. Alone. The second floor was a mirror of the first, but worse. Graffiti scarred the walls, words like sorrow, death scrawled in jagged strokes. Some looked fresh, others faded, as if the walls had been screaming for decades. My flashlight caught smears of something dark, not paint, not blood, but something that made my skin crawl. Every door was shut, except one 40 yards down, wide open, like a mouth. My pulse quickened. Why was it open? I had to know. Let's pause here. Think of a time you walked toward something you knew you shouldn't. Each step echoed the floor, littered with broken glass that crunched under my shoes. The windows on the doors revealed chaos, overturned chairs, papers strewn like confetti walls, streaked with that same dark smear. It felt like a war had torn through, leaving only ghosts. I was halfway down when I glanced at the open door again. It was closed. My breath caught. I hadn't heard it move. Look closer now. See the door sealed, hiding something alive. I froze my flashlight, trembling in my hand. Then, from the corner across the door, a shape stepped into the light. A man. I called out Andre, hoping, praying it was him. But the figure didn't answer. My beam hit him, and my stomach dropped. He wasn't Andre. He was older, maybe 50, his long hair matted with dirt, his body bare except for flip-flops slapping the floor. Deep cuts crisscrossed his stomach, fresh and raw. His eyes, God, his eyes burned through me, wild, unhinged, like he saw something in me. I couldn't see myself. Your heart's pounding now, isn't it? Mine was a caged animal. I wanted to speak, to say hello, to make him human. But those eyes stopped me. They weren't right. Nothing about him was right. He stood there 20 yards away, his gaze a blade cutting through the dark. My instincts screamed to run, but my legs were led. Then he moved a single step deliberate toward me. That broke the spell. I turned and sprinted the hallway, stretching endlessly, the glass biting my soles. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The stairs were a blur, my flashlight beam bouncing wildly. I hit the first floor, my lungs burning, and ran for the exit. But as I reached the hallway, we'd entered a new fear gripped me. It was empty. Andre and the others were gone. Feel the betrayal sink in the weight of being left behind. I was alone in this rotting maze with that man, his eyes, his cuts, his silence. Every shadow held his shape, every creak his step. I tore through the door, past the fence, into the night. Outside, the air was clean, but my fear wasn't. I ran 2 blocks, my legs shaking, until I saw Andre's car parked in a residential street. Relief turned to rage. I yanked the back door open, finding Andre and the others slumped inside, reeking of cheap liquor, passed out. I shook Andre awake, my voice raw. "You left me." His excuse was pathetic. They'd gotten bored, forgotten to call, forgotten me. You've been betrayed before, haven't you? That sting never fades. I didn't sleep that night. My mind replayed the man's face, his eyes, the way he stepped toward me. Who was he? Why was he there, naked, bleeding alone? The asylum was notorious, but no one spoke of him. I never went back. I cut Andre out of my life, his laughter a reminder of my mistake. Let me tell you about my cousin. His story will make you question what I saw. He'd explored the same complex years before sneaking in with friends. They found rooms filled with old medical files, some with photos of patients, eyes, like the man I saw, empty, lost. One file mentioned a patient who'd escaped, never found. My cousin swore he felt watched, even after leaving. I'm older now, but the asylum's shadow lingers. I drive past its gates, sometimes, the bricks still standing. The windows still black. I don't stop. I don't need to. Those eyes follow me, burned into my memory. Feel the chill now, the way it crawls up your spine. The man is still out there, I think waiting in the dark for someone new to find him. And sometimes, in the quiet, I wonder if he's closer than I know. The night was cold, the kind that seeps into your bones and makes every step feel heavier. I was walking home just a few blocks from safety when I saw her, a figure under the street lamp, motionless, her pale skin glowing like a ghost. She wore no clothes, only black boots and a porcelain cat mask that stared straight through me. I should have run then, but I didn't. And when she started chasing me, a knife glinting in her hand, I knew I'd made a mistake. Working the night shift at the mental institution was never easy. The screams, the outbursts, the hollow stares of patients who saw things I couldn't. They clung to me like damp clothes, even after I clocked out. I was a nurse back then, young and stubborn, too broke to afford a car. Taxis ate into my paycheck, so most nights I walked home. It was only a 15-minute trek through quiet streets, and I liked the solitude. After hours of chaos, the cool night air felt like a balm, the silence a gift. My apartment was close enough that I could see its lights from the hospital parking lot, a beacon pulling me forward. But that night, something was different. The air wasn't just cold. It was heavy, like a storm was brewing, though the sky was clear, studded with stars. I left the hospital around midnight, my sneakers scuffing against the cracked sidewalk. The street was empty, the houses dark, their windows like closed eyes. The only sound was my breathing, steady and rhythmic, and the faint hum of a distant car. I pulled my jacket tighter, the chill prickling my skin, and kept my eyes on the ground, counting my steps to pass the time. I was halfway home, maybe 5 minutes from my door, when I noticed the street lamp ahead. It flickered a weak pulse of yellow light that barely reached the pavement, and beneath it, a figure. I stopped, my breath catching my instincts, flaring like a warning flare. Who's out here this late? I thought, squinting into the darkness. At first, I couldn't make out details, just a silhouette, tall and broad, standing perfectly still. I told myself it was nothing, probably a neighbor taking out the trash or waiting for a ride. I started walking again, slower. This time, my eyes locked on the figure. The closer I got, the clearer it became, and the more my stomach twisted. It was a woman, heavy-set, her skin so pale, it seemed to glow under the lamp's sickly light. Her hair was long, straight, and blonde, hanging limp, like it hadn't been washed in weeks. But what stopped me cold, what made my heart stutter, was what she was wearing. Or rather, what she wasn't. She was naked, her body exposed to the frigid night, except for a pair of black rain boots that gleamed wetly in the light. And on her face, a mask, a porcelain cat mask, its features smooth and lifeless, with empty black holes where eyes should have been. The mask tilted slightly, as if she was studying me, though I couldn't see her face, couldn't tell if she was even human. What the hell? My mind reeled, grasping for an explanation. Was she drunk? High escaped from the hospital? But no patient I knew looked like this. And the mask, that mask, wasn't something you'd find in a psych ward. It was too perfect, too deliberate, like it had been crafted for a nightmare. I stood frozen, maybe 30 feet away, my breath shallow, my hands clenching in my pockets. The woman didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, her shadow stretching long and warped across the street. The air felt thicker now, pressing against my chest, making it hard to breathe. Don't stare, I told myself. Just keep moving. But my feet wouldn't budge. I don't know what possessed me to make that decision, but I decided I'd cross the street to the other side. Maybe I thought distance would make her less real, less threatening. I glanced at her one last time, her mask still tilted, and then turned my head, crossing the road with quick, uneven steps. The pavement felt unsteady, like the world was shifting beneath me. I kept my eyes on the ground, my heart pounding, telling myself she'd stay put, that she was just some eccentric, harmless oddity. But then I felt it, a shift in the air, a prickle on the back of my neck, like a predator's gaze had locked onto me. I risked a glance back, and my blood turned to ice. She was looking at me. The mask was turned fully in my direction now, its black eye holes boring into me, unblinking, relentless. Her body hadn't moved, just her head, a slow, deliberate turn that felt like a promise of something worse. Walk faster, I told myself, my legs obeying before my mind caught up. I sped up my sneakers, slapping the pavement, my breath coming in short, sharp bursts. The street was still empty, the houses still dark, their indifference a cruel reminder that no one was coming to help. I was alone, and she was watching. I turned my head forward, focusing on the next corner, the promise of my alley, my door, my safety. But then I heard it. Footsteps heavy and rapid, pounding the pavement behind me. Not walking, running. My heart lurched, a sickening thud that echoed in my ears. I spun around, and there she was. She was sprinting toward me, her pale body lurching with unnatural speed, her mask glinting in the moonlight. In her right hand, something flashed, a knife, its blade long and wicked, catching the street lamp's glow. Run! The word exploded in my mind, and I ran. My legs burned. My lungs screamed, my body moving on pure adrenaline, tearing down the street. I didn't look back, didn't dare. But I could hear her footsteps impossibly close, her boots slamming against the pavement, her breath a low animalistic snarl. How was she so fast? She was heavy. Her body shouldn't move like that, but she was gaining her presence, a suffocating weight pressing closer with every second. I veered off the main road, my sense of direction gone, my only thought to lose her to survive. The alley streets blurred into a labyrinth of shadows, the houses looming like silent giants, their windows blind to my terror. My sneakers skidded on loose gravel, my arms pumping my chest, heaving as I pushed myself harder, faster, praying I'd outrun her 3 minutes. That's how long I ran my body, screaming my mind a haze of panic. The footsteps faded, or maybe I'd drowned them out with my own ragged breathing. I slowed, gasping, my legs trembling as I stumbled into a narrow alley. I thought I'd lost her. I hoped I'd lost her. But then I heard it again. Those boots, steady now, deliberate, coming from the shadows I'd just left. My heart stopped, my eyes darting for somewhere to hide. A cluster of overgrown bushes lined the alley, their branches thick and tangled, a desperate sanctuary. I dove into them, the leaves scratching my skin, the thorns tearing at my jacket. I curled into a ball, my breath shallow, my body shaking as I tried to disappear into the earth. She was close now. I could hear her steps, slow and measured, stopping just feet from my hiding place. The air grew still heavy with the scent of damp leaves and something else, something sharp, metallic, like blood. Then I heard it, a low, sniffing sound, like a dog searching for a scent. My blood ran cold. She's smelling for me, I realized, my mind buckling under the absurdity, the terror of it. She sniffed again, louder, more insistent, her boots shifting in the gravel. I held my breath, my lungs burning, my hands pressed to my mouth to stifle any sound. The sniffing stopped, replaced by a low, guttural growl, a sound that wasn't human, wasn't animal, but something in between. It sent a shiver through me, primal and raw, like I'd stumbled into the lair of a beast. Then, silence. Her boots moved away, their sound fading into the night, leaving me alone in the dark. I stayed in the bush for what felt like hours, my body numb, my mind racing. When I finally dared to move, the street was empty, the lamp's glow distant and cold. I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it, and called my sister. She was there in minutes, her car a lifeline I clung to as I climbed in, unable to speak. I didn't tell her what happened. Not then. Not ever. How could I? A naked woman in a cat mask, chasing me with a knife, sniffing me like prey. It sounded insane, even to me. I told myself she was high deranged, some lost soul who'd wandered into my world by mistake. But the truth was, I didn't believe it. Not after that growl, that mask, those eyes I couldn't see, but felt burning into me. I never walked home again after that night. I saved every penny for taxis, even when it meant skipping meals. The streets I'd once found peaceful were now a maze of threats. Every shadow hiding her face, every flicker of light glinting like her knife. I started hearing stories, whispers from coworkers about strange sightings in the neighborhood. A woman seen in alleys, her face hidden, her boots leaving wet prints on dry pavement. One orderly swore he'd seen her outside the hospital, standing under a street lamp, watching the building like a sentinel. He laughed it off, but his eyes were haunted, like mine. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want to know. Months later, I found an old patient's file tucked away in a dusty cabinet. She'd been a resident years ago, a woman with a history of violent delusions, obsessed with cats and masks. Her name was scratched out, the details blurred, but there was a note in the margin. Claims she hunts at night to protect her territory. I closed the file, my hands trembling, and never opened it again. Was it her, or something else? Something that wore her skin, her mask to stalk the living. I don't know. I don't want to know. But every night, when I lock my door and check my windows, I see her in my mind, her pale skin, her black boots, her porcelain face, and I hear that growl echoing in the dark, waiting for me to step outside again. The woods behind my friend's house were alive that night, whispering secrets I wasn't meant to hear. I was just a kid, caught in a game, but something out there was watching, waiting for us to find it. Summer, 2008, in rural Pennsylvania, was a haze of fireflies and long nights. My town was a forgotten speck, an oil-bust relic swallowed by forests. I was at my friend's birthday party, a sleepover that promised slushies and video games, but delivered something darker. His house was a palace in our small world. Big screens, a tree house, a yard that stretched into the wilderness. But that night, the wilderness came for us. My friend was one of the good ones, the kind who'd give you his last slice of pizza. His family was the same, taking me in when my mom was sick. Their wealth stood out in our town, but it was their warmth that kept me coming back. That summer, his birthday was quieter than usual. No tents, no projectors, just a handful of kids, and a plan to play flashlight tag after dark. Step into this moment with me. Feel the excitement of a game, the cool night air, the promise of adventure. We spent the evening glued to his game console, but as the sky turned black, the real fun began. Flashlight tag was our ritual, a mix of hide and seek and adrenaline. The hiders vanished into the dark, while the seekers hunted with flashlights and walkie-talkies. His yard was massive, dotted with trees, and a tree house, but it ended in a wall of woods, thick, untamed, stretching miles to the next town. My own house, 2 miles away, had its share of trees, but nothing like this. You've played games like this, haven't you? The thrill of the chase, the fear of being found. The first hour was laughter and shadows, our beams slicing through the night. We hid in the treehouse, climbed oaks, froze when a cop car cruised by. It was perfect until it wasn't. I was a seeker that round, waiting in the house with my group, sipping slushies that stained our tongues blue. The hiders had 10 minutes to scatter. We joked, fiddled with the walkie-talkies, ready to hunt. But as we stepped outside, the air shifted. Feel the change now, the way the night grows heavy. Shouts broke the silence, not playful, but raw, panicked. The hiders came tearing out of the woods, faces, pale eyes, wide. They didn't stop barreling into the house. We followed confused, our flashlights bobbing like fear flies. It took minutes to calm them down, their words tumbling over each other. They'd gone deeper into the woods, farther than usual, looking for the perfect spot. In the dark, they'd seen something, a shape, at the edge of their vision. At first, they thought it was a tree, a deer, but it didn't move right. It was human tall, standing still, watching. Look closer. Now, picture that shape, half hidden its presence, a weight on your chest. They'd stared, hearts pounding, until they were sure. Then they ran, their screams echoing through the trees. I felt it. Then fear, cold and sharp, curling in my gut. Some of us, including my friend, didn't buy it. He was almost angry, thinking they were pulling a prank. "They're just messing with us," he said, his voice tight. He wanted to storm into the woods himself, prove it was nothing. The others stopped him, insisting we go as a group or wake his parents. You've felt this doubt, haven't you? Wanting to believe it's a joke, but knowing it's not. The idea of a stranger in the woods was thrilling to some, like a scene from a movie. We were in a safe neighborhood, a pack of kids, a against one person. What could go wrong? We made a plan. Most of the boys would go back armed with flashlights and walkie-talkies. They wanted to bring my friend's dog a golden retriever mix, but he was useless, more likely to lick an intruder than bark. I stayed behind with another kid, the walkie-talkie crackling in my hand. Feel the weight of that choice, staying safe while others face the dark. I was calm on the outside, but inside my nerves were a live wire. I sat in the game room, the other kid fidgeting beside me, both of us listening for any sound from the woods. Minutes passed. The walkie-talkie silent. Then it erupted, shouts, static voices overlapping. My heart leapt. The group came crashing back, their faces mirroring the first group's terror. They'd gone to the edge of the woods where the brush was thickest. One kid had swept his flashlight, catching a glimpse of something, someone. See him now, behind a tree, his eyes catching the light. He was tall, long hair, trailing his body, half hidden. He didn't move, didn't speak, just tilted his head staring. The boys who saw him bolted their courage, gone. They swore he was real, his gaze a promise of something awful. Your pulse is racing, isn't it? Mine was a drum in my chest. The commotion woke my friend's mom. She came downstairs, her face a mix of worry and exhaustion. We spilled the story, our voices tangled. She didn't scold us, didn't dismiss it. She locked every door, checked every window, and told us to stay inside. Those woods aren't ours, she said, her voice low. You don't know what's out there. Feel her fear, the kind that comes from knowing more than she says. She promised to check the woods at dawn, but that didn't help. The night stretched on, endless. We camped in the game room. Air mattresses sprawled across the floor. I couldn't sleep. One kid, the most shaken, hid under his mattress, his breath ragged. I stared at the ceiling, the walkie-talkie silent in my hand. The woods were so close, just beyond the yard. I imagined him out there, his eyes fixed on the house, waiting. You've lain awake like this, haven't you? Hearing every sound, fearing the worst. Dawn finally came, and I drifted off, dreaming of shadows that moved like men. Morning brought pancakes and sunlight, but the fear lingered. My friend's mom had checked the woods, finding nothing. No footprints, no signs. She smiled, but her eyes were tight. We ate on the patio, the woods looming at the yard's edge, silent now, but no less threatening. When my parents picked me up, I realized how close I lived, just 2 miles away, a 10-minute walk. Feel the dread now, knowing he could find you. At home, sleep was a stranger. I kept my curtains drawn, my door locked, picturing him in my yard. Weeks later, I was back at my friend's house playing video games. I brought up the man needing answers. My friend shut me down, his voice sharp, unlike him. "Drop it," he said, his eyes avoiding mine. "You've seen someone hide something, haven't you?" That flicker of guilt. He offered an explanation. A neighbor's son, older, tall with long hair. "He's weird." He said the word heavy with meaning, probably just scaring us. It made sense, but it didn't. Pranks end with laughter, a reveal. This guy hadn't shown himself, hadn't gloated. He'd just watched. Let me tell you about the neighbor kid. His story will make you doubt. Years before, we'd played a game with him, tossing rotten crab apples across the street. He was older, meaner. The game ended when he hurled an apple at my friend's head, knocking him down in tears. His parents warned us about him, called him not nice. He had long hair, like the man in the woods. But was it him? My friend never gave a name, never confirmed. He hadn't seen the man himself, only heard the story. Was he protecting me, or something else? I stopped sleeping over after that. Not because of the woods, but because high school changed us. My friend's explanation haunts me more than the man. If it was a prank, why no reveal? If it wasn't, what was he doing? Stalking kids in the dark. Feel the chill. Now, the way it crawls up your spine. I drive by those woods, sometimes. Their shadows unchanged. I don't stop. I don't need to. His eyes are still there, watching, waiting for someone new to play his game. I thought it was just a quick errand, a favor for my brother. Pick up his things from his friend's house and be done with it. But the moment I stepped into Roy's place, the air turned sour, like something was rotting, just out of sight. Roy warned us about demons, and I laughed it off, thinking he was unhinged. Then I found my brother's Bible, its pages sealed shut, and saw Mike walk into a hallway that swallowed him whole. Except Mike was outside, and whatever I saw wasn't him. My brother was always the kind to leave loose ends, so when he called from out of state, asking me to grab some of his stuff from his friend Roy's house, I wasn't surprised. I was annoyed, sure, but loyal enough to agree. It was a Saturday afternoon, the kind where the sun hangs low and heavy, casting long shadows that seemed to cling to the ground. I'd already made plans to hang out with a couple of friends, Mike and Sarah. So I figured we'd swing by Roy's, grab the stuff, and be out in 10 minutes. Easy. I didn't know Roy well, just a guy my brother met through work, a mechanic. with a loud laugh and a penchant for cheap beer. His house was on the edge of town, a squat, single-story place with peeling paint and a yard choked with weeds. It looked like it hadn't been loved in years, but I didn't think much of it. Houses like that were common out here, relics of better days. We pulled up in Mike's beat-up sedan, the engine rattling as it idled. The air was warm, thick with the scent of cut grass and distant barbecue smoke. But as we stepped out, a chill brushed my skin, like walking through a cold spot in a warm room. I shook it off, chalking it up to nerves. Roy was waiting on the porch, leaning against a sagging railing, a cigarette dangling from his lips. He waved us over his grin too wide, his eyes too bright, like he was hiding something. "Y'all here for your brother's junk?" He called, his voice rough but friendly. I nodded, forcing a smile, already counting the minutes until we could leave. Inside the house was dim, the curtains drawn tight against the daylight. The air was stale, heavy, with the smell of cigarette smoke, and something sharper, almost metallic, like old blood. The living room was cluttered empty beer cans on the coffee table, a stained couch sagging in the corner, a TV flickering with static despite being off. Roy led us to a pile of my brother's stuff in the corner, a duffel bag, some clothes, a pair of worn boots. "He left it all here a while back," Roy said, scratching his neck. "Said he'd be back, but you know how he is." I nodded, half listening, eager to grab the stuff and go. But then Roy's tone shifted, his voice dropping low, almost a whisper. "Just so you know, this place ain't right. Got demons in it. They watch, they wait. Been here longer than me." I froze my hand on the duffel bag, a nervous laugh bubbling up. "Demons, huh? You been watching too many horror flicks, Roy?" Mike chuckled behind me, and Sarah rolled her eyes. But Roy didn't laugh. His face was serious, his eyes darting to the corners of the room, like he expected something to step out of the shadows. "Laugh if you want," he said, "but I'm tellin' ya, they're here. You'll feel them if you stay long enough." I brushed it off, figuring he was drunk or just messing with us. Roy always had a flair for the dramatic, and I wasn't in the mood for his ghost stories. I hefted the duffel bag, ready to leave, but something caught my eye, a book half buried under my brother's clothes. A Bible, its black leather cover cracked and faded, the kind he'd carried to church as a kid. Curiosity got the better of me. I set the bag down and picked up the Bible, its weight heavier than I expected, like it was holding something inside. "Didn't know he still had this," I muttered, flipping it open. I was expecting notes. Maybe verses underlined memories of the brother I used to know. But what I found stopped me cold. Every other page was stuck together, sealed shut, with strips of double-sided tape. Not just a few pages, hundreds. The entire book desecrated its words, locked away. My stomach churned a sick lurch that made my hands tremble. "What the hell is this?" I said, holding it up for Roy to see. He took a step back, his face paling, his cigarette falling to the floor. "Told ya," he whispered. "They don't like holy things. They mess with them, mark their territory." I wanted to laugh, to call it a prank, but the Bible felt wrong in my hands, its pages resisting my attempts to pry them apart. The tape was fresh, its edges clean, like it had been applied recently. "You do this, Roy?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. He shook his head, his eyes wide, almost pleading. "Ain't me. I don't touch that stuff." "They do?" Mike stepped forward, peering over my shoulder. "That's some creepy shit, man," he said, but his tone was light, like he didn't quite believe it. Sarah stayed back, her arms crossed, her face uneasy. I closed the Bible, shoving it into the duffel bag, telling myself it was just Roy's idea of a joke. But the air in the room felt heavier, now the shadows deeper, like the house was listening. We were about to leave when Mike's phone rang. "It's my fiancé," he said, glancing at the screen. "Gotta take this. I'll be right back." He stepped outside the screen door, swinging shut behind him, leaving me, Sarah, and Roy in the dim living room. I zipped up the duffel bag, eager to get out, but Roy kept talking, his voice low and urgent. "You ever feel cold for no reason? Or hear your name when no one's there? That's them. They know you're here." Sarah scoffed, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes flicked to the hallway, leading deeper into the house. I ignored Roy, hefting the bag over my shoulder, ready to call it a day. But then I saw him. Mike, walking back into the house, crossing the living room, without a word. His head down, his steps silent. "Mike, you done already?" I called, but he didn't answer. He didn't even look at us, just kept walking straight toward the hallway at the far end of the room. It was odd. He didn't know this house, had never been here before. Why would he walk off like that, without asking where the bathroom was, or saying a word? "Mike?" I called again, louder this time, but he didn't stop. He disappeared into the hallway, the darkness swallowing him like ink. Sarah frowned, glancing at me. "What's he doing?" she asked, her voice tight. Roy was quiet now, his eyes fixed on the hallway, his face pale as ash. "That ain't your friend?" he whispered, so soft I barely heard it. My heart stuttered a cold dread pooling in my chest. "What do you mean?" I demanded. But Roy just shook his head, backing toward the door. I dropped the duffel bag, my legs moving before my brain caught up, carrying me toward the hallway. "Mike, you okay?" I called, my voice echoing in the narrow space. The hallway was dark, the light from the living room barely reaching its mouth. The air was colder here, sharp and biting, like stepping into a freezer. I fumbled for the light switch, but it didn't work. The bulb dead, or the wiring shot. "Mike!" I shouted, my voice cracking. No answer, just silence, thick and oppressive, pressing against my ears. I took a step forward, my sneakers scuffing the worn carpet, my eyes straining to see into the darkness. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. Its walls lined with faded wallpaper, peeling like dead skin. At the far end, I thought I saw movement, a flicker, a shape too vague to make out. My blood ran cold, my breath shallow, every instinct screaming at me to turn back. But I couldn't. If Mike was in there, I had to find him. I called his name again, softer now, almost a plea, and took another step. That's when I felt it a drop in temperature, like the air had turned to ice seeping into my bones. My skin prickled, my hairs standing on end, as if something was watching me, its gaze heavy and malevolent. Behind me, I heard the living room door creak slow and deliberate, like it was closing on its own. I spun around, my hand shooting out to catch it, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The door stopped, inches from shutting, but the effort left me shaking, my palms slick with sweat. "Sarah, stay there," I shouted, glancing back at her. She was frozen in the living room, her eyes wide, her face pale. Roy was gone, the screen door swinging open, his cigarette still smoldering on the floor. I turned back to the hallway, my breath ragged, my mind racing. Mike's outside. I realized the thought hitting me like a punch. He never came back in. I bolted for the door, grabbing Sarah's arm as I passed, dragging her with me. We stumbled onto the porch, the warm air a shock after the chill of the house. Mike was there, leaning against his car, his phone still pressed to his ear, oblivious to everything. "Mike," I shouted, my voice raw. He looked up, frowning. "What's wrong, man?" "You look like you saw a ghost." I grabbed his shoulder, my hands shaking. "Did you just come inside? Walk through the house?" He stared at me, confused. "No, I've been out here the whole time, talking to Jess." I don't even know where the bathroom is in that place." His words were steady, honest, but they made my stomach drop, a sickening lurch that left me dizzy. Sarah was trembling beside me, her voice barely a whisper. "We saw you, Mike. You walked into the hallway." Mike's face paled, his phone slipping from his hand, landing in the grass. "That's not funny," he said, but his eyes were wide, searching mine for a lie. There wasn't one. We piled into the car, the duffel bag forgotten, the Bible left behind. I didn't care. All I wanted was to get away, to put as much distance as possible between us and that house. As Mike drove, I told him everything. The Bible Roy's warnings, the figure that looked like him, vanishing into the dark. He didn't say much, just gripped the wheel, his knuckles white. Sarah was quiet in the back, her eyes fixed on the road, like she was afraid to look anywhere else. "That wasn't me," Mike said, finally, his voice low. "I swear, man, that wasn't me." I believed him. I had to. Because if it wasn't him, then what was it? What had walked through that house, wearing his face, luring me into the dark? We never went back to Roy's. I called my brother, told him to get his stuff himself, or let it rot. He laughed, thinking I was overreacting, but I didn't care. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had seen me in that hallway, something that knew my name, my fears, my weaknesses. I started hearing stories after that, whispers from people in town about Roy's house. An old man said it was built on bad land, a place where things went wrong. Crops failed, animals died, people vanished. A woman at the diner swore she'd seen shadows in the windows at night, shapes that didn't move like people. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want to know. But the stories stuck, burrowing into my mind like worms feeding on my fear. I don't sleep well anymore. The dark feels different now, heavier, like it's watching me. I keep a light on, check my doors, pray I never feel that cold again. I don't know what was in Roy's house, a demon, a spirit, something older, something worse. But I know it was real. I know it saw me. And I know deep in my gut that it's not done with me. It's waiting somewhere in the shadows, wearing a face I trust, ready to call my name.